Good afternoon, class. Please make sure that you guys have your notes that we left off with yesterday. Throughout the video, I'm going to ask you guys to pause it and try some examples on your own. As you learned, there's a lot of information when it comes to an ellipse, so the more examples that you guys can do on your own, the better. Okay, so hopefully you're open to number 3 now. We're going to go ahead and complete the square in order to graph. Just more of a refresher from yesterday. So first, let's group the x's together and the y's together and put the constants on the right-hand side. Then this gives us x squared minus 8x plus 16. Factor out the 25 and you're left with y squared plus 4y plus 4 equals negative 91. Now, in order to balance out our equation, we have to add AC to the other side. So we're going to add 16 and add 100. Where I got those numbers from was the 16 was right here when we completed the x's, and 25 times 4 for where we completed the y's. So this is x minus 4 squared plus 25, y plus 2 squared equals 25. If you remember from yesterday, an ellipse has to be set equal to 1. So in order to do that, we're going to have to divide the entire equation by 1. And your final equation, divide by 25. Your final equation should be x minus 4 squared over 25 plus y plus 2 squared over 1 equals 1. Okay. Now remember that a horizontal ellipse is when the a squared is underneath the x, and a vertical ellipse is when the a squared is underneath the y. Now, how do we know which number is the a squared? Well, for an ellipse, it's always the biggest denominator. Okay. So hopefully you recognize that 25 is bigger than 1. So this is going to be a horizontal ellipse with a center at 4, negative 2. Okay. Now the foci is where we have to find C, and C is the distance from the center to the foci. In order to find C, we need to do C squared equals A squared minus B squared. So C squared equals 25 minus 1. So C squared is 24, and C equals plus or minus 2 root 6. Now, when you guys are writing the foci, please keep it in radical form. Don't switch it to decimal. However, when you go to graph it, it's going to be in decimal form. So since it's a horizontal ellipse, we're going to affect the h value of the center. So 4 plus or minus 2 root 6 comma negative 2. Okay. To find the major axis, that's 2a, and the minor axis is 2b. Well, a is going to be 5, and b is going to be 1. So the major axis is 10, the minor axis is 2. Well, what does that tell us? That tells us that the horizontal axis has a full length of 10, which means from the center to the vertex is 5. So we're going to plot 5 away to the right and 5 to the left. Okay. Those endpoints are known as the vertices because it's part of the major axis. Now the minor axis, b equals 1, so we're going to go up 1 from the center and down 1 from the center. Those are the endpoints of the minor axis, and notice that the full length of the minor axis is 2. Now graph your ellipse, and don't forget to graph the foci. And in this case, the foci is going to be very, very close to the vertices. Okay. Also, remember that the focus always has to be along the major axis. Always. All right, I would like you to pause the video right now and try example number 4 on your own. And then once most of you guys are done, you can go ahead and play again, and the answers will be up on the video. So please pause. Okay, here is the answer to example number 4. Notice that this was a vertical ellipse, and make sure that for the foci, since C was an integer, please make sure you put the actual values and don't just write -3 plus or -3 comma 1 plus or minus 4. Please actually write the ordered pairs. Okay, that concludes that video portion. We're going to go ahead and start talking about writing ellipses. Okay, in the first example, number 3, it says endpoints of a major axis at -9, 0, and 9, 0. And then the endpoints of the minor axis are at 0, 3, and 0, -3. So the first thing you're always going to want to do is figure out, is this going to be a horizontal or vertical ellipse? Okay. And so the best thing to do is plot the points. So the major axis is at -9, 0, and 9, 0. And the minor axis is at 0, 3, and 0, -3. So notice that the major axis is horizontal. So this is going to be a horizontal ellipse, okay? Which means the a squared has to go under the x value. So if we have plus our two fractions equals 1. Okay, we can figure out a and b now, because remember that a is the distance from the center to the vertex. So 0 to 9 is going to be 9, so a equals 9. And b equals the distance from the center to the co-vertices, so in this case 3. And we know that a squared has to go underneath x because this is a horizontal ellipse. So this is going to be 81, and this is going to be 9. Okay. Now, in order to figure out the center, you need to find the midpoint on the major axis. Okay. And the midpoint in this example is going to be 0, 0. So just x squared and y squared. For those of you that are not sure how I got 0, 0, well, use the midpoint formula. -9 plus 9 divided by 2, comma 0 plus 0 divided by 2. That gives me 0, 0. So that's the center. Okay. Once again, we knew that it was going to be a horizontal ellipse because the major axis was horizontal, and then the a squared has to go under the x. Please pause the video now and try number 4 on your own. Okay, here is the answer to number 4. X minus 4 squared over 9 plus y plus 3 squared over 25 equals 1. Okay, just to go through it, the reason why we knew it was going to be a vertical ellipse is because the major axis was vertical. And we knew that because the endpoints of the major axis were at 4, 2, and 4, -8. So the only way that that's possible is if you have a vertical ellipse. Okay. So next step was to find the center. The center is just going to be the midpoint of the major axis. So 4, 2, and 4, -8, you find the midpoint and you get 4, -3. Okay. Now we had to find a and b. Well, we knew a squared had to be under the y because this was a vertical ellipse. A is the distance from the center to the endpoint of the major axis, otherwise known as the vertex. So if our center is at 4, -3, and our endpoint of the vertex is at 4, -8, the distance between that was 5. So a equals 5. 5 squared is 25. Then the distance from the center to the covertex, which is on the minor axis, went from 4, -3 to 7, -3. So B had a distance of 3. 4 to 7 is 3. So 3 squared is 9. Okay, let's take a look at example number 5. So let's think about this visually. So vertices at -6, 0 and 6, 0. Okay. So right away we should know that this is going to be a horizontal ellipse. And then we have foci at -4, 0 and 4, 0. And remember that the foci have to lie on the major axis. So let's set up our two fractions and equaling to 1. Okay. The next thing we need to do is find the center, or in other words, the midpoint of the vertices. So the center is going to be at -6 plus 6 divided by 2, and 0 plus 0 divided by 2, So your center is going to be at 0, 0. So x squared and y squared. Okay. All right, the next thing we need to do is find a and b. Well, we can find a because a is just the distance from the center to the endpoints of the major axis. So if this is at 0, 0, then from 0, 0 to 6, 0, we went 6 units. So I apologize for my dog barking. What I was saying is that the distance from the center to the vertex is 6 units, so we know that a equals 6. And since this is a horizontal ellipse, 6 squared has to go under x, so we know that this is 36. Now we have to do some work to find the b. However, we do know c. Remember that c is the distance from the center to the foci. So in this case, c is going to be 4. Okay, here's the center, here's the foci, 0, 0 to 4, 0 is 4 units. So c squared equals a squared minus b squared. So c squared is 16, then a squared is 36 minus b squared. So negative 20 equals negative b squared, so b squared equals 20. And we actually don't even have to find b because the equation calls for b squared. Okay. Now please pause the video and try number 6. Okay, here's the answer for number 6. X plus 1 squared over 16 plus y minus 2 squared over 25 equals 1. All right, last example. The foci are at 5, negative 2. So 5, negative 2. And the other one is at negative 3, negative 2. Remember that the foci lie in the major axis, so right now we should tell that this is going to be a horizontal ellipse. The co-vertices are at 1, 0 and 1, negative 4. Remember that the co-vertices are on the minor axis, and since this is running vertically, we should know that this is also going to be a horizontal ellipse. So let's set up our equation. Okay. First thing we need to do is find the center. Well, the center is in between the foci as well as the minor axis, so it doesn't matter which set of points you use. I'm just going to use the co-vertices. So 1 plus 1 divided by 2 and 0, negative 4 divided by 2. You get a center of 1, negative 2. Okay. So this is going to be x minus 1 squared plus y plus 2 squared. Okay. Now we need to figure out what is the a and the b. Well, we can figure out the a due to the fact that we know the co-vertices. So what is the distance, we can figure out the b. What is the distance between 1, 0 and 1, negative 2? Well, it's 2. So b equals 2, and that has to go under the y because this is a horizontal ellipse. Okay. We can also figure out the c. The c is going to be the distance from the center to the foci. So the distance from the center to the foci looks like it's going to be 4. So c squared equals a squared, which we don't know, minus b squared. So 20 equals a squared, and that gives us our a squared value. Okay, and a squared has to go underneath the x because this is a horizontal ellipse. Okay, so once again, b is the distance from the center to the co-vertices, c is the distance from the center to the foci. You count the units. So if the foci is here at 5, negative 2, and the center is at 1, negative 2, then the x value changed 4 units, so c is 4. Then use c squared equals a squared minus b squared to find the missing variable. Okay. Your homework tonight is going to be to finish the ellipse worksheet, which will be numbers 13 through 23. And then on Monday, we will clean up everything to make sure that we understand how to write as well as how to complete the square. Okay. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend.